Everything seems to be working.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's
Well, you haven't heard me yet. You may not thank me later, you know.
I think I will.
Okay, if you say so.
And apart from the fact that, you know, I'm writing a paper, an academic paper, and perhaps I will just briefly explain to you why, because there's lots of scholarship recently that is very negative about the seekers, Western seekers in India in the 1970s.
Who's negative?
Scholarship, you know, people, academics who write, obviously it was just a hippie trail, you know, they were just coming and, you know, doing drugs and so on. And I know it's not true. And I know
those people are thinking too much. They should be punished.
That's right. And I think that very often it is because most of academics are not spiritual seekers. So they just, you know, go into them different theories, this theory, that theory, and, you know, and there's lots of critical writing on yoga. So well,
not only are they aren't spiritual seekers, but they have no intuitive understanding that anything is possible besides the mind and the emotions, the thoughts and the emotions. So of course they're going to be critical. Why shouldn't they? Because they don't think there's anything to find. So these people must have just been stupid and hippies. You know, it's perfectly reasonable from their point of view, but it's totally bogus as far as reality is concerned.
And I absolutely agree. So when I started to attend conferences, and, you know, I was just horrified, you know, because I think these people exactly were completely limited by their rational mind, which is, you know, a useful thing, but they have never had or never welcomed a spiritual experience, and then they come out with these crazy judgments. So about other people's spiritual experiences. So I just decided to publish academically on the topic. And also on a personal level, before we start, I would like to thank you because I'm a big fan also. So I'm really grateful and actually feel privileged apart from the academic part. And listening to your CDs helped me in a very difficult time in my life, you know, as a spiritual seeker.
Wonderful.
And actually when I was in an ashram and a friend passed me first CD and first time I heard you, it was, you know, Om Namah Shivaya. You know, and
my big hit.
And this was the first thing I heard, and it blew my mind completely, you know. And I said, okay, who is this guy? And I started to buy CDs. And also I attended 2 of your concerts when I lived in Melbourne. I shifted.
Oh, yeah, we always have a great time in Melbourne.
It was great. Each concert was absolutely great.
Yeah, great.
So just as a start, but it's for an academic research, but I'm just also personally very, you know, grateful for your presence here.
Sure. Well, I will blurt out as much as I can, and you can edit it as much as you need to.
Thank you.
And you will.
Not necessarily, but I just have to ask you 2 formal questions. One, it is, are you happy with me using your name, Krishna Das? You know, in my research. Thank you so much. And also, if you would like to, I may post it also on my YouTube channel if you're happy with this, but it's entirely up to you. It can be just a private research. So but it can be a little bit free flowing as well. I'm just prepared, you know, to just in case. So could you tell me, just as a startup, could you tell me something about your background before we move, you know, why you went to India and so on?
I was born in New York City, actually, and I grew up out on Long Island. Middle-class family. We weren't well off, but I don't remember really not having what I needed, you know, growing up, whatever I basically needed. And but I was very unhappy my whole childhood, my whole life, up until about 10 minutes from now. And I always felt there was something missing in my life, like some piece missing. Everything didn't fit. It was I was happy on the outside. People thought I was a happy person, but inside I was not happy. I was really looking for something that I didn't even know I was looking. But I mean, in every interaction I had with the world, I was looking for something and never getting it, really, for more than a minute, you know. Sometimes you would get little hits of something or other, and that felt good. But So in high school, I started reading books about yoga and meditation, and I had a friend who was a little older than me, and he would, share things with me, and he was very deep into meditation. And anyway, my life just kept getting worse and worse. And then one day I met Ramdas, Richard Alpert, who had been to India and met his guru there. This gentleman.
Yes.
This is when he's young, and that's when he's old. Yeah.
Maharaji, right?
Neem Karoli Baba, yeah. Maharaji, we call him. And he came back to America. I met him shortly after he came back. And the minute I walked into the room where he was sitting, alone up in his father's little room above the garage on his father's estate in the middle of the winter. I walked into the room, and without a word being spoken, without eye contact, just the minute I walked into that room, boom. My whole life changed at that moment. I knew that whatever it was I was looking for was real. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to call it, but it was real. It was in the world, and you could find it. Those three thoughts, three epiphanies at the same time. And then Ramdas and I became very close over the next couple of years, and I went to India to meet the Guru, because gradually I realized that it was the old man kind of coming through him that I was feeling. And I went there, and Maharaji kept me there for 2.5 years, and then he sent me back to America.
Oh, so he sent you back.
He said, "You have attachment, you have to go back. Go." I went, because when I left America in August 1970, I gave everything away. I sold my car, my guitar. I gave my jeans away. I was never coming back to America. I had it in my mind I was going, and I would never come back. But he knew that the only way I could work out my stuff was to be here in America, where it all is for me. So he sent me back. He said, "You have attachment there." And what is he talking about? I never think about going back, but everything that's happened to me since that time up until this time is exactly what he was talking about. These were my karmas coming to fruition, and I was going to have to deal with them and live and find a way to live in a good way as life unfolded for me. And it wasn't going to happen for me in India. I was already so full and also so blocked that nothing was passing through because of my attachments and my desires and my mental confusion and tightness. So it was there, but it wasn't coming through. It was just stagnating because of my stuff. So he did what he had to do, is send me back, to deal with it, because that has to be dealt with by ourselves. We have to deal with it. So then, then life just went on from there.
So you're basically the apart from an inner impulse, because you were looking for something and you didn't know what it was. It was just kind of state of unhappiness or lack of luck, basically, right? As then the major event, I guess, before you went to India was meeting Ramdas, right?
Yeah, that was life-changing, because, like I said, just meeting him and feeling Maharaji in the presence of Maharaji with him in that room, it was like, oh, it's real. You can find it, Before then, all I had was books, and LSD. So, which was great, which really kept my heart alive, because it kept showing me there was something more than this boring black and white kind of gray kind of existence. And but until I met Ramdas, I didn't really believe that it was in the world as it is, without LSD, without any kind of chemicals. It was real as it is. And so that was a very big thing for me. That was a very big thing.
So how long have you been with Ramdas before you decided to go to India?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half.
I
yes.
met him in the winter of '69, early, maybe January, February '69, and I left for India in August '70. About a year and a half.
He was very influential for many people. For example, my spiritual teacher also went to India because after meeting Ramdas somewhere in Chicago. So so I don't know if you know him, Shankar or Ananda. Shankar. He's in Melbourne now.
He's what?
He's in Melbourne now. He has a ashram in Melbourne.
Oh, sure. I know him. I met him in India in the old days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rajendra and Jayashri were their names when I met them, because they were with Baba Haridas at the time. We bought their Volkswagen bus.
He told me.
Over in India in their bus. Yeah, I saw him when I was in Melbourne. I went to see him. Out at his ashram. Yeah, we had a very nice afternoon together. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I was in this ashram, but not obviously when you were there. So simply because I don't know, we just obviously missed each other. But so I did an interview with him too, and I know that you know about the van, the Volkswagen van, and that you bought it from him, and then he moved on to Baba Muktananda.
Yeah. We also met Baba Muktananda. I actually met him on my way to India in London. He was on his way to America for the first time. And we went to stay at his ashram for about a week in Ganeshpuri before going up north, because we flew into Bombay at the time. And he loved us. He was very kind to us. He said, well, why don't you go stay at my place for a week and rest up and then go up to your guru. I know him, you know. So we did. We had a great time.
So now I would like to ask you, what did you experience in India? I know pretty much, but I also mean, because I've, listened to your other talks and your satsangs, but just for the sake of the research, what did you actually experience there, spiritually and otherwise? So you arrived to India, and how was this different from you, for example, being with Ramdas in the United States and then coming to India to see Neem Karoli Baba?
Well, it's like, it's like the difference between a drizzle and a thunderstorm. There was Ramdas was, but not to belittle Ramdas in any way, because he was and continued to for many years really transmitting Maharaji's presence. But being with Maharaji physically was and having him interact with me and others on a daily basis was a very different experience. First of all, though, let me say, so once I met Ramdas and experienced Maharaji's presence, although I didn't know that's what it was, I dreamt about him a number of times. And I dreamt about him as he really is, in color, and the way he walked. He had a very unusual way of walking, which I couldn't know having seen just a little black and white picture. That's all, a few black and white pictures. And then in the dream, he was walking and talking, and just like he did in real life. And that was one day, actually, I was late to go to the temple. I don't know why. And so I came late by myself, and I was carrying some apples to offer to him. And as I came in, usually we'd come in the morning and we'd either come into his room or he'd come right out of his room and sit right down. I had never seen him walk. I didn't realize that, but I'd never seen him moving. in that first year, because we'd always come sit with him. So this day, because I was late, as I walked into the temple, he was walking across the courtyard by himself. And I just stopped like this, because he was walking the way he walked in the dream I had of him 2 years before.
Wow.
Before coming to India, but after meeting Ramdas. And my mind just stopped. And I was standing there, and he looked at me and he started laughing, and he grabbed my apples. I didn't even offer him the apples. I was just like, he grabbed the apples and started throwing them to other people and was laughing. And he just went like, oh, these Westerners, like this. And he was laughing. And then he went into his room. But seeing him move the first time was mind-blowing, because it was exactly the way he moved in my dream. He had a funny way of walking, almost like a kid, bouncing from one foot to the next like that, almost as if he was going to fall over, but not really, it was unique. So that, and so, but the point was that I was feeling his presence everywhere after I met Ramdas. Whenever I thought of him, whenever I felt it, so then when I met him physically, it was confusing, really, because how could this humongous, vast presence that I felt everywhere all the time, in America, everywhere, how could it be inside this little guy with a blanket? It was like this, like a figure ground kind of reversal thing. It was like, but he was so sweet and so loving and so, that your mind just kind of finally relaxes and lets go, and you're just there in this extraordinary presence and being and love. Yeah, so that was the first day we saw him. And over the first, funny thing happened. So we had been to Ganeshpuri, and then when my friend Danny Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence, you know that book?
Of course, I teach emotional intelligence at university. And so we talk
that's
about
Dan Goleman, right?
We talk
Danny
about him all the time. Yes.
We went to India together the first time
in
1970.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he lives just 20 minutes from here. We talk all the time. He's a very good friend. And so another one, Rameshwar Das, Jim Litton. So Danny had, when we pranam to Maharaji, when we bowed, Danny's book opened up and a picture of Nityananda fell out. Because we'd been to Vajreshwari, which is just down the road from Ganeshpuri. And Maharaji says, what's that? What's that? So Danny showed him the picture and he says, oh, he's a good sadhu. A good sadhu. Now for Maharaji, that's like he's God in human form, because Maharaji knows everything about everyone and every bullshit, fake, greedy, money-hungry bastard sadhu who's acting like a guru. He knows everything. But he said Nityananda's good sadhu. And then there was a woman in New York that we used to do meditation classes with, named Hilda Charlton, who had been with Nityananda in India in the 50s. And she was like a temple dancer when she was younger. And Maharaji said, this is the first time we met him. I mean, he didn't know anything from the outside. He said, oh, Nityananda had a disciple named Muktabai. And he did. Mrs. Muktabai was an Indian disciple of him, one of his great devotees. But Muktabai was also Hilda's name that Nityananda had given her. And then he said, Muktananda, he's a gentle and learned man. That's what he said about Muktananda. Oh, nobody, his disciples wouldn't say he's gentle. Yes. From Maharaji's point of view, he was a gentle and learned man. And so that was the first darshan. And then the other thing that he said to us, he says, I gave him my apples.
Yes.
And he immediately threw them away to the other people in the room. And I went, oh, I thought to myself, oh, he didn't like my apples. He didn't accept my offering. And he turned to me immediately and said, what did I do? I said, I don't know. He said, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? I said, Baba, I don't know. He said, when you have God, you don't need anything. And I just looked at him like, and then he said, when you have God, you have no desire. So he didn't need those apples.
Ah,
He just gave them away. That was the first teaching he gave like that. He didn't give lectures. He didn't teach. But just like that, when something happened, he was right on it. You see, I don't need it. I have no desire. You know, I just distribute to everybody, which is what he did. He fed everyone. Anyone who came to the temple got food to eat. He used to say, you can't talk to a hungry person about God. Feed them first. Because in India, food is like gold.
of course.
You know, in the West, everybody has food. Most people have food and everything. So they worship money. But in India, you've got to eat, and that's the first thing. And most people, there's a very large, especially in the old days, a very large percentage of people in Eastern countries, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. Maybe they know where today's food is coming from, but they don't know if there's food for tomorrow. So he was very, very serious about feeding people and removing suffering. This is what he lived for. That's everything he did, was about removing suffering and helping people and healing the sick, raising the dead, giving people babies and jobs and everything.
So beautiful.
The whole thing.
So beautiful.
That's all he did. 24/7, 365.
So beautiful. Yeah. Because I don't want to get into it, but obviously in Western theology, suffering is the big thing, you know, how suffering is possible, you know. That's most people's argument with God, right? Suffering. So, great beings help us to overcome it, or at least understand it.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
So, just not to compare, but when I was listening to Ram Dass's stories, you know, his stories with Neem Karoli Baba were always like really dramatic, maybe because he was a very dramatic person himself, you know, like. So, did you have this kind of relationship with him, or was it like a sweet relationship of a bhakta really with him, with Neem Karoli Baba?
All of it, all the same, very much the same. Ram Dass was also a great bhakta of Maharaji.
Yes.
His whole life was dedicated to being in Maharaji's presence, as is all of ours, all of the devotees. That's, no matter how we say it, this is the only thing that makes us feel okay, is being in his presence, in the ultimate sense, you know, not in the physical presence, but in the real presence.
Yes.
You know, an enlightened being is called Antaryami, which means the indwelling presence.
Yes.
That he is actually the consciousness within each being, because he's no longer an egoistic, self-centered. There's no planet of me left anymore in that being. He's become everything, because there's only one, and that one lives in everybody and everything, and he's identified with that. So he's living within you. So he sees you from the inside, and he loves you from the inside out, not from the outside in. That was the very intense experience, you know, not you felt the love coming from him, but it's very hard to explain it. You really felt yourself being ripened from the inside out. He wasn't a teacher. He was a siddha, is a siddha. And
he was transmitting,
He just does. He doesn't ask. He doesn't teach. He just changes your life immediately. Boom. Okay. Next.
So it's really as if, I don't know, I'm just putting into words, like as a form of energy almost, right? Like just transmitting by presence, by his own presence, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Transforming just by being in his presence. That's beautiful. I wish I could get rid of my ego. For so many years, I'm, you know, working on it, and it's still there. I'm telling you.
You're still here. You keep working, but you're still here anyway. Even if you don't recognize it, you're here. Where else would you be?
True. That's true.
You know, it's just that we don't know how to look. That's all. It's not, you know, when he left the body and I went out of my mind.
Yes.
And I was running through the jungles looking for him. You know, I'd meet these babas in the jungle, and I'd say, I'm looking for my guru. They look at me like I was crazy. They said, your guru? Your guru's looking out of your eyes right now. What is wrong with you?
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and that's then and I went running away, you know.
Yes.
But it took me a long time, and it's still a work in progress, obviously, to recognize that the Guru is within. It only looks like he or she is out there because we are attached to our bodies. They're not attached to theirs. They don't identify with the body at all. They identify with the cosmic oneness. Yeah, cosmic consciousness, which is one. There's only one consciousness. And each of us has that little reflection inside, but it's exactly the same consciousness, just possibly a little bit more limited in scope at this point. But just like the moon is reflected in many different pools of water, big pools, little pools, same light, different container, that's all.
But from our point of view, when a guru, his body dies, then it feels like an ultimate loss, right? It feels...
Well, I was totally attached to his body. I never wanted to leave it for a minute. And when he left the body, for me it was a disaster, and it destroyed. It was like the button that released all the negativity that was hidden inside of me. And that negativity almost killed me more than once. But he saved me again and again. And ultimately, I recognized through his grace, I was given another lease on life, you might say. Otherwise, I wasn't going to make it. I was incapable of doing anything for myself. And he saved me. He had to save me. I gave him no choice. Because I wasn't going to make it. If either that or he was going to have to save me. And it wasn't a game. I was really not capable. I had so much self-destructive karmas and such self-hatred and such self-loathing and in me, it wasn't going to let me live. So he had to save me, and he did. So
thank you for sharing this. I can completely relate to this. And I just have to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, let's talk to those miserable scholastics.
So one is, what was your arrangement in India? Did you live by the temple? Did you rent something? You know, where did you live, basically? In the ashram?
We ultimately stayed nearby the ashrams and dharmsalas and stuff. When we were up in the hills in this one temple area, we stayed in a village, a town nearby, in a hotel owned by devotees of Maharaji. And we go every day by bus to the temple, and then every day in Shankar Ananda's bus. We drove back and forth, and I was the driver.
You were the driver.
Yeah, Maharaji took the keys away from Ramdas and handed them to me. He said, "You're the driver. You drive. Ramdas, you take the public buses." So
I actually remember. Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember the story. Yeah, he was working on all of you, right? And
yeah.
So and obviously you were with another group of Westerners, and they were also basically sincere seekers, right? This is people who are good.
I'm sorry, they were what?
You were with a group of Westerners, and they were also a group of sincere seekers, right?
Seekers, everybody there was a core group, maybe of the time 15, 20 at the most.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. And the last, we were with him for 3 years before he left the body. And for the first 2 years, it was relatively small most of the time, between 20 and 20, 25. Sometimes if he stayed in a place long enough, like in Vrindavan, which was near Delhi, more people would come for darshan, but never that many, 30, 40 at the most. And he didn't need you there. He used to say, my mantra is go away. He said, Jao. Jao means go away. So he said, my mantra is Jao. He didn't need you there, but he allowed some of us to spend time there with him more closely. But then Yeah, and then after about a year and a half, a small group of people were allowed to stay in the ashram with him, and the rest people kept coming back and forth from the temple. And personally, I didn't have any money. You know, after 2 years in India, I was completely broke.
Yes.
Actually, probably 6 months in India, I was broke. But we had a little Hanuman fund where people who had money would just put it in the fund, and if you needed something, you took it out, and it worked. It was very, very good. And he would feed us. He gave us enough food. We never had to buy food, you know, when we were with him. He fed us, you know, more food than you could ever eat. And
so this Hanuman fund, was it
it was
based
just,
by...
it wasn't anything structured. It was just, I guess one person held on to some rupees, you know, and if you needed something, you just asked for it. That's all. There was no, it was natural. It wasn't anything official. It was just us hanging out and helping everybody, helping the immediate people.
But it would be basically Westerners sharing, or was it anybody?
Yeah.
Westerners sharing the...
Western. Yeah, we were very close, even though we didn't always like each other that much. We were still very close.
Yeah, I understand.
Because, you know, Maharaj, he spoke to individuals.
Yeah.
He didn't make a homogenous group of people. He didn't start a movement. He didn't organize a satsang. He just was with anybody who showed up. And since we were staying together and seeing him together, you know, a camaraderie developed, and some of us had money, some of us didn't, so people shared. That's all.
That's good. That's wonderful. And just once again, was it 1970 to 1973, pretty much, or?
Well, we first saw him actually September 13th, 1970, and then he left the body September 11th, 1973.
Wow. Wow.
September 11th, by the way.
September 11th.
You know, that's 9/11.
That's right. And
very interesting.
Because I was looking at your website, and it said that you were already back in New York when he left his body. Is it true? Or?
He sent me back in March 73.
Okay, in March.
After 2.5 years in India, and then within 6 months he left the body.
Yes. So
September.
So can you tell me, like, when he told you to leave, what was it? Was it a shock for you, or
tremendous shock? Yeah, a tremendous shock, really, because the funny thing was, I never imagined going back to the West. Never. I never thought I was going back to the West. I never wanted to go back to the West. But I was having fantasies about going off to the mountains to so-called meditate, as if I could meditate. But that was my fantasy. I was going to go up and get a little kuti up in the hills and just live quietly for a while and just kind of meditate. But nothing would have, you know, I was just bullshitting myself. Nothing was going to happen. But the funny thing was, I was thinking of going away from him for a while. And that's when he sent me back to America.
Interesting.
Yeah, because intuitively I knew that I was blocked.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really take any more. I mean, I was just so tight that nothing was flowing through me. There was too much attachment, too much desire, too much emotion, negative emotions and stuff. So it wasn't going, you know, it wasn't. And so, you know, he did the right thing. He sent me home.
So would you say that the most of your sadhana actually happened back in New York? The bad stuff, you know, like when you actually deal with your capacity.
Yeah, if you want, you could say it that way. I wouldn't even think of it as sadhana, you know, just survival, you know, just to stay alive was my work, you know.
Yes.
But,
so, wow. So,
and you know, the other thing is he didn't tell people what to do for the most part.
Yeah.
He didn't never tell me to go out and lead kirtan to the masses. Never, not in a million years. He never said that. But at the same time, he used to ask us to sing to him all the time, and we loved singing to him because he loved hearing it, and it was our way of being with him and relating to him. And so many, many years later, you know, after he left the body, 21 years later, I was in my room in New York, and I walked from one room to the other, and I was struck by like lightning bolt,
Mm-hmm.
thunderbolt. And at that point, I knew that if I did not sing with people, chant with people, I would never be able to clean out the dark corners and the shadows in my heart, in my own heart. And I understood this was the only thing that I had, the only way I could do that. And if I didn't do it, I didn't do it. I was going down, but I could do it. And if I did do it, that's what would happen. But it took me a little while to get with the program because I wasn't, you know, it took me a while to come out of the kirtan closet, so to speak, you know. And but I did, because I wanted to live, and I wanted to reconnect with him. He said many times, he said, once I take your hand, I never let go, even when you let go of mine. Not if, but when. And I had let go of his hand, and now I was trying to find it again. So that's why I had to start singing.
I remember in your recent satsangs, you recounted one story when you were just singing Samaniva temple, and you realized that Nim Karoli Baba was watching you, and how you were filled with love suddenly in your heart, you know, because he actually saw you. He was just standing there and watching you sing.
Yeah.
So now my question is, so you went back to New York.
Yeah.
And from what you have just said, I don't know if I understood it properly. You said that you didn't start chanting right away. So because you said after
Absolutely.
20...
You know, I wandered around, visited friends, painted houses for a few bucks, did odd jobs, totally rudderless. You know, I had no sense of direction. I was just, I had lots of friends who had houses and places in the country, and a house here, a house there. I'd go stay for a while. I'd go there. I'd make enough money to eat and for gas, but I had nothing going on, you know, nothing going on at all for many years.
So then this moment when you said 21 years later, when you were in a room and you had this kind of realization, this is when you decided to chant, right? I didn't know that.
This is when I knew I had to chant, with people. It was with people, by the way, people. Not alone. It had to be people. With people.
Okay, with people. Okay, and thank you for this. And now I lost what I wanted to say. So you wanted, but in the past you also had a past as a musician before you went to India. So
I was a singer, and I played guitar, and I had an offer to be a part of a band that actually became very famous later. But that offer came to me just after I met Ramdas. So I knew where I was going. I wasn't going anywhere else except to be with Ramdas, because that was, you know, that was such a powerful connection. So I had to turn down those offers, and if I had taken those offers, I would have been dead a long time ago. Because there's no way I, you know. But this is, and look how funny Maharaj is. He takes that karma of performing and fame and musician, and he turns it into something that's actually good for me.
Yes.
And good for other people.
Yes.
And I can do it sitting down. I don't have to jump all around the stage and work out all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I completely relate with my own story to what you're saying. So I completely relate. So and I'm just such a beautiful confirmation for my own journey, so to speak, apart from what we are doing, you know, for the paper about that. So
and that's what a siddha can do. You know, they can realign your karmic configuration so that it's good for you and not destructive.
Yeah.
You do this. it looks like the same thing, but it's completely different in a way. It's very interesting.
But you've done much better than me, because it took me several years. I had a very powerful Shakti path, and I was rebelling against it. I said, like, I have a career, I have to finish my PhD, and suddenly it's all meaningless. I don't like it, So I was fighting my
yeah, but no, but don't say that. It's not meaningless. It can be your vehicle. The fact that you're not attached to it is a very good thing, because then you can see it clearly. Just like you wouldn't say that the blues is meaningless or classical music is meaningless, but chanting is different, even though it's musical. So you can be in that community. When my daughter was in college, she was in college for 2 years, and she hated every breath of every day, but she took a course on Buddhism, and it was a very good college, a very good university, and top-notch stuff and good professors. And she was telling me about this course the things she was learning. And it was so heartbreaking, because there was nothing that she was being taught that this was about practice and realization. She was learning it as a philosophy, a useless mental construct that could help, that had no help for you at all. And I said, Ja, you don't understand. All this stuff is a roadmap for how to overcome suffering and how to free oneself and find happiness in life. It's not just about learning a philosophical construct. And I felt bad for the professors, because they don't know that. They studied it as a fucking intellectual exercise. So and missed the whole point.
Yeah, but completely. So that's why it took me many years to thought, okay, I can contribute academically into this, because this is what academics do. I found resources, about spiritual experiences and so on, resources that they can relate to, and then working from this point of view. But it took me many years to actually find my way, so to speak, because I'm stubborn and, also full of desires and ego and stuff. But, I'm working on everything. So,
don't work too hard, okay?
Okay.
You don't get paid overtime, so just take it easy.
Thank you so much. And also, just as a kind of side comment, my partner is from Queens, actually. And he has quite a similar past. He's a very committed meditator with another teacher from Siddha tradition as well, and he was also trying his luck and left it with I don't know if you know New York Dolls and Johnny Thunders. Anyway,
oh yeah, sure.
So him and Johnny Thunders were best friends, and later they went completely. And he said the same thing: if I stayed with Johnny Thunders, I would be that like him, because of the lifestyle, basically.
For sure.
And the time. So
the band I was in was called the Blue Oyster Cult.
Yes.
Yeah. They were a big 70s band, very famous.
That's right. Yes. So this, I just one more question before we move on to the final question, is that when this offer came, okay, you already were this with Ram Dass, and this offer came, this band, and you are a singer, right? You were vocalist there, right?
Yeah.
And so, did you have any hesitation, or it was already decided for you that you're not?
I was on my way to live at Ram Dass's father's place up in New Hampshire and work for his father for the summer and hang around with Ram Dass. So I had moved out of my house in the woods, my cabin in the woods up in upstate New York, and I had driven down to my old university for a Jimi Hendrix concert. And my 2 dogs and my cat and all my worldly possessions were in my car in the parking lot. And after the concert, I was going to get in the car and drive all the way up to New Hampshire, another like 5-hour drive. And while it was after the concert that the manager of the band came to me and said that the guy who replaced you as the singer can't sing in the studio. So would you come back? We have a whole record made and we have a tour lined up and we just need the singer. And I said, "No, I can't do it." There was no
Oh,
hesitation.
oh, that's wonderful.
No, if there was any hesitation, I would have done it, and then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Conversation. I'm so
But there
glad
was
you.
no. I was seeing the rising sun in the distance, and I was on my way. There was nothing that was going to sidetrack me at that point. There was a track, like in Star Wars, a tractor beam.
Yes.
You know.
That's wonderful. It's very inspiring, actually. Thank you so much for myself, apart from my work. So, how would you summarize in a few words your experience in India with Maharaji?
A few words? How few do you want?
Well, I just, you can say as much as you want. I just say, don't want to.
Well, first of all, that the path is real, that there is a path to freedom and real love and happiness, and that there is a path to free oneself of one's limitations and one's negativity and one's stories that one tells oneself about oneself that one hates and then hurts oneself and lives that way and believes those things. There's a way to free yourself of that stuff. And when one frees oneself of those things, one experiences great joy because our natural state is that love. That love lives within us. So being in India with Maharaji and also meeting all the old devotees, all the people around him, and being accepted as family in this very loose, there was no organization. This was just life. We're humans. That's it. You're here. What else do you need? You're a part of the human family. There's nothing to join. You already joined. You got incarnated. That's it. You're here. So being with them and seeing how they lived in this presence all the time and how to live in the world. Most of his people that we met were householders with children and jobs and daily worries and daily problems and working. And, we didn't meet sadhus with him. We met householders. He was always surrounded by people involved in the world. It was very interesting. He was like the head of a huge family and everybody came to him. And so, yeah, just being in India, first of all, getting to India was like coming home. When my foot hit the runway, in those days, you used to have to get out of the plane and walk on the runway into the little building, which was the airport. I mean, this was 1970. There was tiny. The airports were tiny. Mumbai and Delhi Delhi was like a big cow shed at that time. Now it's one of the fanciest airports in the world. But the minute my foot hit the ground, I heard in my head, "I'm home. I'm home." And I realized I had never felt that before anywhere, not even in the house I grew up in. I'm home, finally. And from that moment on, India was just, that's home base. Even today, 50 years later, it's home base. And I've been there maybe 100 times since 1970, 73.
This is what I just wanted to ask you, yes. Yeah. And this is a question that you don't have to answer because it's one of these academic questions. So if you can comment, it's good. If not, that's fine. It is that, there's lots of, and actually, especially in India, among, academics, but also here in the West, that, saying that Westerners just come, selfishly to India, and they just modify the traditional Hindu teaching so it suits them, and it's that and it's that Hindu tradition.
That's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, well,
first of all, even talk about Buddhism. Yes. Buddhism itself understands that it's not a religion that stays the same. These are techniques for liberation that get expressed differently in every culture it comes in contact with. It's different in India. It's different in Tibet. It's different in Burma. It's different in Thailand. It's different in Japan and China. And it's different in America now. It's based on the same truths, the same principles, but the expression has to be transmittable and understandable in the culture it gets to. You know what it's like for these scholastic people. It's like being an artist, and you work with the primary colors, right? Red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet. Is that 7? I don't know. Because that's what you got. But spiritual life, there's another color that nobody sees. You either see it or you don't. If you have the karmic predisposition for it, you can see it and work with it. And that color is awareness and real love. And it transcends the primary colors. So the scholastics, they keep rearranging the primary colors and painting things, and many painting that it's all the same. It's all within, but there's another color that's not available to everybody, just not because those people are better or than anybody else. It's just they're riper, more ripe. They have a different understanding of things. And so it's kind of like that, and even now there's tremendous work being done and research being done on consciousness and the brain and the mind. And Richie Davidson from University of Wisconsin-Madison, he's doing a lot of research with Tibetan lamas on the way the brain is plastic and has this plasticity, and as you meditate, the brain actually changes shape, and the channels in the brain. I mean, this is stuff that's actually, some stuff is verifiable and some stuff is not verifiable in terms of, people. For those who have ears to hear, let them hear.
That's right.
Unfortunately, the way we're brought up, we're not everybody has the understanding that there is a way to live in the world that is not self-centered, that is not egoistic, that is not about me first, that is about kindness and compassion and becoming a good human being and treating others the way you would like to be treated. There's a whole, this is what spirituality is about. And this is who was drawn to India for the most part in those days. Many of those so-called hippies who were drawn to India became scholars of Indian philosophy and different lineages, and they were initiated and they studied and in music and art and philosophy and religious training, and they've written books, and they're now teaching. One of my friends is teaching at Vassar. He's the head of the philosophy department at Vassar, or Eastern philosophy. I mean, he went to India as a so-called hippie in the old days, and he grew up. And the same Edwin Bryant at Rutgers, and so many people out there that that they re-entered the scholastic world from their own angle after they absorbed the real the truths of the East, and they came back to share that, and even through the scholastic medium.
That's right.
So.
And Danny also in business, right? Through emotional intelligence.
Of course, Danny in business and meditation and writing. Yeah, he's in psychology, sure.
Yeah, psychology.
And so many of them. I mean, there's so many people out there who are in their 60s and 70s now who went to India in the old days and is still carrying that flame inside and transmitting it in their own way. And to belittle those people, it's just jealousy, I think. Really,
I don't.
They know they're fucked up. They know they're depressed. They know they have no hope to live a good life, and they're pissed off that somebody might have found something. And that's the worst kind of personality there could ever be.
That what propelled my research in this direction, apart from my own spiritual interests, is that I met a young scholar. And she actually wrote an influential book about hippie trail, in India, which is extremely negative, and it really broke my heart. But actually inspired me, to do my own research. And it's not that she's even jealous; she's a very young person. It is that, as you said before, like she has no clue about spiritual experience, never had
Yeah.
one. And so she
Yeah.
just, and I said, no, but I know people who genuinely, went there for
Yeah.
spiritual search. And she was, no.
No, there were a lot of, no, to be honest, there were a lot of people who just went and partied.
Yeah.
They went to India, they went to Goa, they went to Bali, wherever there was a nice beach and good drugs. There were a lot of people who did that, sure, absolutely. But there were a lot of people who didn't, who really got interested in what India had to offer, has to offer still in its own way. Even the way it's changed over the last 50 years, there's still, the eternal Dharma is still present there in a way that it isn't in most of the rest of the world. So, yeah, everybody's got a point of view, so God, as my grandfather used to say, God bless him. He didn't mean it, but he said it,
And okay, just one last question, because it's almost 1 hour for you. So I just want to,
I'm in no hurry, you just
oh, fantastic. So, because you have a very unique way of doing kirtans, and of chanting. And so how did it happen?
That's a nice way to put it. Thank you.
No, but I love it, and everybody loves it. And you have a fantastic voice on top of this, that's an amazing gift. And so how did you come up with this idea of doing it differently, because it is a Hindu. You did. Okay.
No, I just opened my mouth and started singing what I like to sing.
Oh, okay.
Well, why would I do something I don't like?
No, but I thought that, that you sing it a little bit differently, like.
I'm me, I'm not somebody else.
Okay, I see.
You want me to sing like somebody else?
No, absolutely.
I'm just saying, I can only sing the way I sing.
Yes.
So, and I don't sing for other people either. I don't sing to make them like it. This is my spiritual practice, which I share with others. So I'm doing my practice and I'm doing it for me. But my practice, as the epiphany I had revealed to me, that it includes other people. For the most part, I have to sing with other people also in order to actualize myself too. So it's back and forth with other people, but it's my practice with other people. And I think I'm not trying to get anybody off. I'm not trying to make anything happen for anybody. How can I do that? People have dreams of Maharaji. Can I give them a dream of Maharaji? No, of course not. I can't even give me a dream of Maharaji. So it's him doing everything. I'm just the front man, and that's fine with me. But people see me doing it, so they think I'm doing it. That's a nice delusion. They're welcome to have that, but I don't think that. And so I just sing what I like, and I sing to him.
Fantastic.
And why wouldn't I?
That's right.
I sing what works for me, and somehow or other it seems to work for other people too.
Yes.
But that's just the way it goes. I wouldn't be doing anything different if people didn't like it. I'm not gonna, because I'm not doing it for other people. I'm doing it for myself, but myself includes other people. I'm doing what I have to do for myself. It just seems perfectly natural to me. I never studied Indian music. I didn't study chanting. I chanted with Indians in India, chanting. And they sing, when I first came back and started singing with people, I sang mostly the melodies that I had learned in India, for sure, at the beginning. But as time went on, and I relaxed more into myself, then the melodies started coming out more like, garage band rock and roll, which is where I grew up, 3 chords and a relative minor, and we're off to the races. So, it's more natural. If I was singing it the Indian way, that wouldn't be natural to me, because I only spent a few years there, and I grew up in Long Island with all this stuff, and I played rock and roll, and I was into music and blues, and so that's very natural to me. So it just comes out that way. I don't think about it. Believe me, I don't think about it.
Okay.
If it was up to me to think about it, nothing would happen.
Okay, so there's no intellectual process. Oh, I would do it this way. So
absolutely none. People ask me all the time. They ask me all the time. They say, you know, oh, how can I share my chanting with the world? I want to share. I said, you do? Is there something wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You have a headache? What's wrong? Is everything okay? What do you mean you want to share your chant, you stupid asshole? Just sit down, sing. It's your own ass you have to save first. Worry about other, you know, you're going to use other people to get famous and make money and have a job because you don't know how to work. This is what's going on, but so be it. It's okay. Because why? Because every single repetition of the name is a powerful seed that gets planted. No matter how you plant it, it's a powerful seed. So even if somebody's doing it for the wrong reason or not the most pure motivation, it's still better than robbing banks and hurting other people.
That's right.
But still, so one has to think about, and so I don't know if you read my book or saw the video, the movie, One Track Heart.
Just when I was doing research, I didn't know that you had a book. So, but, you know, I'm going to read it now. Yeah,
it's called Chants of a Lifetime.
Yeah, I found it on your website, and I definitely
but
will.
In there's a very long, I had a big, it describes what happened to me in 1995 after I'd been singing with people for about 9 months.
Okay.
I began to feel very uneasy. And I began to recognize that I was not capable of doing this the right way. I started chanting to find Maharaji's hand again, to enter into his presence, to reconnect from my side, knowing that he never left me, but still I had to reconnect. And I saw that my own desires, my own stuff was going to prevent me from doing that I was going to grab everything that was offered to me, all the energy that's coming towards me. I was going to use all that for my personal egoistic aspirations. And there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing, because I was the problem. And so I couldn't do anything about it. And so I quit singing in April 1995, after 9 months, March 1995. And I went to India, and every day before I went to sleep, I would say, Maharaji, I was talking to him. He'd only been dead, you know, how long? 20 years. Maharaji, you have to fix this. This is your problem. I'm singing to people in your name. This is your problem. You don't fix it. I don't sing. That's the way it is. Good night. And nothing happened, every day, nothing happened. I wake up in the morning and I was the same shithole that I was the day before. And every day went on, and it just got worse and worse. More desperation, more. Can you imagine being prevented from doing the only thing that can save your ass, being prevented by your own stuff? What can you do? You're helpless. There's nowhere to turn. There's no one to ask except him.
Yes.
Nobody could do this except him. And I just said, every night I said, what's going on? It's 2 months and nothing's happened. I'm not singing, you understand? You got it? Good night. Every day. It was terrible. And it was a very painful visit to India. My Indian parents were very sick. It was April in Lucknow. It was 120 degrees. And I'm on a rickshaw in the middle of the day, bringing my Indian mother to the doctor. It was just horror, day after day. Anyway, to make a long story short, you can read about it in the book. Make a long story short, on June 15th, 1995, at the temple in Kenchi, Maharaji saved my ass. He changed my life. He saved me. And from that moment on, everything's been different. And if he hadn't done, how? Because he showed me reality. He parted the curtains and he showed me what it really is. And that freed me from the belief that I was the doer and that it was up to me, and that it was all about me.
Mm.
And it just freed me from that. Now, I'm not saying that I remained in that awareness, but once the tree is cut, sooner or later it's going to fall.
Mm.
And the trees, I don't know if the tree's been cut completely, because it is still standing, but there is a pretty good cut there, waiting for the wind to blow it over. So that day changed everything for me. So I was able to come back and really sing, because I saw it isn't about me at all. And there's, I mean, it's one thing to say that, but there's a lot of subtle awarenesses that happened at the same time that really, and I saw, even when I think it's me, even when I'm stupid and I think it's me doing it, it isn't. See, that's what really freed me to come back and sing. It was okay to be stupid. And since I'm stupid most of the time, that was a big thing.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you. And I definitely and I'll definitely look into this book, because I just actually found out about it yesterday for some reason. So
cool. I just recorded an audio book of it, but it won't be out until January.
Thank you so much. And apart from the research, it also was a very important meeting for me personally.
Sure.
As I don't know if I should use the word seeker, but somebody who was extremely grateful for this opportunity. And in 2007, I approached you after Melbourne concert and for an interview, but it was, and I contacted Nina, but it was too complicated with the technology then. I didn't know how I'm going to record you. Now we have the technology, and that you're chanting, for yourself and to reconnect with Maharaji actually made me survive probably the most difficult period in my life. I was just sitting in my room, very bad time in my life on every possible level, and I was just obsessively listening to a CD, so
yeah.
And it actually, because I was not even capable to repeat a mantra. I was in such a state that I couldn't do even a mantra. But listening to you, actually, pretty much saved my life, I think, because sometimes you never. So I have a personal gratitude, also, but
all I can say is mine too. Listening to me saved my life too. So I can understand. What can I do? That's wonderful, and that's all his doing. What we all feel is his presence, and his love and his presence and his being. It's a deeper place inside of us that allows those negative things to float off a little bit and be released, and not eat us up alive quite as much as they used to. So I understand very well.
And do you have like a last word, perhaps, for like spiritual seekers, some general advice, because very often when people start on a spiritual journey, they're in turmoil, because they have two conflicting worldviews, and it can be very painful, So do you have any last advice?
Well, follow your heart. That would be it, The whole path is about learning to trust your heart and what's really in there. And if somebody tells you to do something and it feels good, sounds good, you try it. And then if it doesn't after a while, then you listen to that too. You don't believe what anybody else tells you unless you feel it. And if you feel it, you go for it and you live with whatever happens based on that. I've been in I've been in a cult, I've been in such crazy circumstances because I just followed my heart, but it also got me to here too. And this is not so bad. And because my heart was telling me all kinds of things, I needed this, I needed that, I wanted that. But if I hadn't learned how to listen, I would have maybe I would have just stayed on, but I wouldn't have gone through what I had to go through in life to get to this moment. And who knows what more is going to happen. You have to listen to your heart, and you have to learn to trust yourself, because this is what nobody's taught us how to do that. Our parents didn't trust themselves. They didn't know that there was anything to find. Our friends and schoolmates, the culture we live in doesn't believe in anything. So the fact that we are even looking for something is so incredible that it's ridiculous. And it's also the fruit of our own karmas right now, that are the longing we have to find something in life that's real. That longing is what saves us. That itself is the saving grace. So
Thank you so much.
okay.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening, and I try to attend your satsangs when I'm not working, because it's a Friday morning for me, so I'm at work.
But it's also online. You can watch anytime. It's
yeah, I'm doing it online. Yes.
No, but I mean later.
Replay, you mean, right?
It's all on. Yeah, it's all on YouTube. Krishna Das channel. Krishna Das music.
Okay. Okay.
Like tomorrow night at 7, I'm doing something, but you can watch it anytime.
Okay.
Not just then. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're all the Thursday nights are up there on the YouTube channel. You can watch them anytime. They're recorded and put up there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thank
anytime,
you.
get into the bath and turn it on and just relax. Nobody has to be there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank
Namaste.
you.
Be well.
Namaste. You too. Thank you.